Okay, so we are now recording. I'm just going to hide my meeting controls and we can start. So welcome once again to our Wednesday webinar series. Today's session is Virtual Networking for Success, Wednesday, September 16th, 2020. It is a pleasure, as always, to come and join you for our Wednesday webinar so that we can get more engaged, we can get more information so that we can move our businesses forward for success. So what is so different about virtual networking nowadays? Virtual networking, what is it? It's something that's a little bit different. Some of us are used to engaging with customers and clients in a virtual space. I know that I had been using Zoom for at least, now I'm thinking back, maybe a year or so or more since before the pandemic. I was using it on and off for professional development. But for the most part, I was always still, it was a hybrid. I was still going to visit the clients in person. So what is virtual networking today? Well, according to the dictionary, and I just Googled it, as everybody else does, I Googled networking, and it gave me these two answers. And these two definitions are really different for the context, but I like them both for the purposes of tonight's discussion. So the first one is the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. The skills of networking, bargaining, and negotiation. And then the second one, the linking of computers to allow them to operate interactively. So let me just start with the first one. So the first one is kind of clear and clear cut. We get it. You know, it's the process of interacting with other people so that we can exchange our information and develop professionally or socially or both to move our businesses forward, to move our knowledge forward, to move even our own individual networks connected. So it's like a live LinkedIn networking. And then number two, I like that the linking of computers to allow them to operate interactively. So in a computer networking, there are all these different components that are connected and situated in a certain position for a certain function. So if you really think of networking at that level of importance, because if there's any little piece inside of your CPU, your central processing unit, or your tower, as I used to call it back in the day, your computer either won't work or won't work properly. So you really need networking like that nuts and bolts of your business. You really need the networking to stay connected to your prospects, to your clients, and as I shared a few weeks ago, even sometimes your suspects. Because if your suspects aren't necessarily your prospects, they may know, or in their network, they may have your potential prospect and client. So it's really critical. What we're focused on today is networking in a virtual manner. So the way that we networked yesterday, BC, before COVID, was we had business card exchanges. So you'd give someone your business card, you'd take theirs. That's not happening today. Handshaking, that's not happening today. Socially close, we were in small venues at times or even large venues, but we were up close to people that we knew, and at least in an arm's distance so that we can handshake and exchange business cards. And of course, we were also eating and drinking indoors. So all of that, as you can see on this image here on the left, is no more. So our networking has definitely been impacted like the rest of everything else that we do personally and professionally. So with the coronavirus and the pandemic, these are the orders. Stay at home, you know, and protect yourself, save lives. So we're wearing masks. It's very difficult to see one another, recognize one another when we're in person. You have to be at least 6 feet. We're definitely not handshaking or hugging. And business cards today, the way that I'm exchanging business card information is basically through the chat in a Zoom or through email. So what does networking then look like today? So if you see these images, they're just representative of some of the ways that our businesses are running. So if you look at this one here on the left, this is basically what we're doing now. We're on some kind of platform, whether it's Zoom like we are today, whether it's some kind of webinar platform. There's Google Meets, there's WebEx, there's even like FaceTiming or face-to-face, even through Facebook. So there's lots of ways that you can connect with colleagues, prospects, clients, peers, team members to get work done and to get business done. And then if you see this top picture here, this is a lot of us today. We may have, you know, little children running in the background, older children on, you know, their own spaces in school. We may have extended family members over, you know, so this is representative of how we do business. And even this here, where you see the laptop and it looks like this person is not necessarily situated at a desk. They're wherever they can find space because they're sharing space with so many people. So maybe on their bed, on their sofa, on the floor, wherever they can get to a space where they can get to that connection. So this is a little bit of what networking looks like today in images. However, even though it's virtual, and even though it's different than the way it was BC before COVID, it's still really about relationship building. So that hasn't changed. That is still the end goal. That's what we should have as the end result. Whether it's business to business or business to consumer, you still have to connect with your target audience or those referral partners that will get you there, or your strategic partners who you may collaborate with to come up with better ideas, bigger ideas, bounce ideas off like a mastermind, or circles of influence where you have people that may not necessarily be a referral partner, but people that have known other people or have done what you've done, like we mentioned before, in our competitors, cooperators, or people that are in your same line of business that you want to be around because of the fact that being around them and knowing them and being in their Zoom room gives you knowledge and a way to step up your game and get your business to more success. So relationship building all the way around is the goal. We know that people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So that's that three-piece criteria, that three-piece in the recipe. Those three ingredients that are necessary for someone to feel comfortable to say either they're going to refer you to someone that they know and that they do business with, or that they themselves are ready to do business with you. So it's really important to build trust. And as we looked at the previous slide, the true guaranteed way to do that is relationship building. So now you're in this networking room, Zoom room or other kind of virtual room, and you're meeting people for the first time. You want to leave a really great impression. You're going to have an opportunity to present yourself in what's called an elevator pitch, or a 30-second. And you want to make sure that your elevator pitch is tight, as I said here, that it's concise, that it's clear, and that it follows these bullets that I have listed here and a little more. But this is really some of the most important pieces of what your elevator pitch should have. So number one, make sure that you have several versions of your elevator pitch. It depends on the audience. So you should have one for each audience that you may be presenting to. And you're saying, well, I should have one target audience. You may have one idea of who your target audience is. For me, I help business owners, but sometimes my target may be a nonprofit, maybe the executive director on a nonprofit board who's my business owner, right? Because a nonprofit runs like a business, but it's just not for profit. Or it's a for-profit decision maker that I'm speaking to. And their needs may be different, but how I get to the end result is the same. So my process is the same, but their needs are different. And as you're gonna see at the fourth bullet on this list, it's WIIFT. What does that mean? What's in it for them? It's not about me, it's about them. So my elevator pitch has to ring true, it has to resonate with them. So having a few different versions would help. And the versioning should change only with your story. So in the third bullet I have, start with a story, make it memorable. So that's the piece that you can really switch, so that it's a story about someone who you got results for, whose problem you solved, which is very similar to the person that you're speaking to or the audience that you're speaking to. So you want it to make it memorable so that it resonates with them, but also so that it's memorable because you don't want to blend in with everybody else. When you're in a lot of these different virtual meetings, as I am, and you get your opportunity to present your pitch, and you go around the room and sometimes you're only given 1 or 2 sentences, which is just a few seconds to present, You want to be able to leave some kind of impression where the person is still thinking about what you said. Memorable. Keep it simple though. You don't want to include any kind of technical or industry jargon. That's the moment you'll lose them, because if they're not familiar with what you're saying, then now they've tuned out. They're just looking at you, and at the end of it, they're going to say, "That's nice," and that's it. You don't want them to say that's nice. You want them to say, "Wow, how can I follow up? How can I work with her? How can I work with him? I think that they can help me." You want them to have these kinds of ideas in their head so that they will follow up with you. So it's about leaving that impression. That's why being memorable with a story, with some facts as to what you've done for someone else in their shoes, really is a great pitch. And then last bullet that I have on here is practice. Practice and always be authentically you. You want to be you. You don't want to memorize someone else's pitch, someone else who may be in your same lane, someone else who may be in your same industry. It has to be about you. And as we talked about the night that we talked about marketing, you want to be able to include your differentiator. And that's why giving some kind of case study in a story format is helpful. So the elevator pitch. You've given your elevator pitch. Now they're getting to know you. It's one of the very first steps. You're gaining favorable attention. That's what you want. You want to win them over. So then when you ask them in the chat, which is really like your virtual business card exchange, you say, "I'd like to have a one-on-one." Now they're remembering you. They're going to say yes. And then you can connect on that second meeting. So you're in the meeting, even before the meeting, actually, if you know it's going to be a Zoom meeting or WebEx or a Google, whatever the platform may be, make sure, number one, you have downloaded any kind of app or technology or software that you're going to need for that. You don't want to wait if your meeting is at 12 to do that at 11:45. Some of these take very long to download. You never know what else is going to happen. And plus, you want to be able to test around some of the tools once you have it. Like, for instance, if you have Zoom, Zoom allows you to then change if you want to have a virtual background. I prefer not to have a virtual background, but it depends on your industry and your business. I happen to know 2 business owners that are comedians. Comedy is their business. So their backgrounds reflect the kind of industry and the kind of business they have. So you always want to keep it professional. Also, if you're going to have a virtual background, I've heard that not to have things that are moving, because it makes sense. It's very distracting. Same thing as if you're on a chair on wheels. I'm sitting on a chair that has wheels. So moving around is something that is also distracting. So I try not to do that. Same thing if you're swiveling in your chair, that's another distraction. So you want to be able to go into your app, like Zoom as an example, be able to see if you are going to set up a virtual background, if you're going to keep it blank, be able to test what your frame looks like. Turn on the camera, see what your lighting looks like, see how you appear. What's in your background when you're on camera? Are there things back there that are distracting? Are there things up there, back there that may have a red flag that someone sees and they're like, okay, that's distracting, or that's something that I don't agree with. So you want to be able to keep it all neutral and be very professional. So check your background, check your lighting, download any applications, any software, test it out, know the tools. Some of the tools also allow you to improve your video, how you come across on video. So you want to have it like on HD, high definition, anything that you can do that allows you to come across clearer, crisper, and more professional. So that's your lighting, that's your camera, and then action. You're going to go right in, you're going to go early, appear early to your networking meeting. You know, if it's at 12 o'clock, show up a few minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Again, you never know what's going to happen because we're relying on technology now. This is a virtual networking space. And then also be prepared if you already have all of your contact information, something similar to what would be on a business card. Sometimes people have what they would put on an email signature. Keep it somewhere where you can copy paste it all the time. Copy it. You don't have to type it all into the chat every time you go into a new meeting or a new room. You just copy paste it into there, and it's going to be a standard, professional. All your information's in there because you've done it ahead of time. And people really also, they'll be seeing if you're looking down, if you're typing, unless you have your camera off, which I'll talk about in a minute. You want them to see you engaged. So you don't necessarily want to be typing the whole time. So it's easy to just copy paste and put it into the chat. What I'm doing now is I'm looking directly into my camera. So it mimics as if we had been in person, me looking at you and having eye contact. When you're now the one receiving the information, so if someone else was speaking to me, I would then be able to look at my monitor and look back at them. So having eye contact, having your camera on is important. You want to be engaged. You want to be showing the person that you're respecting and that you're listening to them and to others in the room, especially if you're doing a one-to-one. That's bizarre. So they're on camera, but you're off camera. And that's happened to me. And sometimes the person immediately says, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not on camera. And I understand there are so many things happening in our world. So I get it. But if you're able to, especially if you scheduled a one-to-one with a person, it's different when you're on a webinar or a seminar style. That's a little different. But when you're in a networking room, when it's going to be your turn to speak, try to be prepared to be on mic and on video, especially if you're going to have a one-on-one or a smaller meeting among 3 or 4 people as a follow-up. They want to see you. Again, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. So I've never seen these people before. They've never seen me. We're getting to know one another. That's the first thing into allowing and permitting trust. So that's the setup. Lights, camera, action. Very important. You've put in your information in the chat. Someone else and multiple people, depending on how many people were in the room, have also put their information in the chat. The chat capability for Zoom is in the hands of whoever organized the meeting. But for the most part, in all the networking meetings that I've been able to attend, I'm always able to download the chat. So in Zoom in particular, when you go to chat, down as if you were going to type or paste in a message, there's 3 little circles, and they're really horizontal circles, almost like an ellipse. You click on that and it allows you to download the chat. It saves you, it asks you if you would like to save the chat. You save the chat, and then it saves it to what would be your main root folder, the good old C drive back in the day. And then you have a Zoom folder. Every time you're in a Zoom meeting, it automatically drops your chat and any other data into that folder. So then you're able to now go back to everything that everyone typed into the Zoom. This is the key component. You've met these people, they've met you, they're fresh on their mind, you've left them with a nice, memorable story with your pitch. They know what you do, they'd like to work with you probably. Now you have to follow up. So I heard someone say that the dollars are in the follow-up. You have to follow up and ask for that meeting. You may have said it in the chat. Now it's time to schedule it, meet with the person, have the second interaction just one-on-one, find out more about them. They can find out more about you. And this is where you start to develop the relationship. And then you can probably start your sales process. The buying process starts the moment they see you, the moment you see them. The sales process then depends once you've qualified them as a candidate, a suspect, a prospect, or a client. So the follow-up is really important. And then as we mentioned, we have tools in our businesses such as a CRM, or for some of us, just a basic Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. You want to keep track of who you've contacted and make that your customer relationship management system, your CRM, so that when you follow up once, you know the date, what your conversation was about, who you spoke to, and then if you have a follow-up to that meeting as well. Just a tool to help you stay organized with your follow-up. So I hope this has been helpful. It has been my pleasure to have these Wednesday webinar series with you. I hope that you've gotten some value from it. That's always my intention. I always want to bring out information that will help you grow your businesses, add value to your businesses, add value to your life. And if there's any way that I can help, I'm here. Please reach out. I am grateful to the Plainfield Special Improvement District for the invitation to lead these webinars on these last Wednesdays. It's been great. And with that, I'm going to leave you and ask if there's any questions. So if there aren't any questions at this time, I'd like to invite you, just in case you're still thinking about it or you have any other questions or something may come up, invite you to visit me at Star One Professional Services. Find out how we can help you. You can schedule a complimentary business strategy session with me where we can talk about what some of the blocks may be, some of the obstacles that you may be having in your business. I'd be happy to go over those with you. Maybe we can strategize a plan. We do strategic goal planning with business owners. As an example, each of these are just some of the examples of what I do with each of the verticals. With nonprofits, we do board training. We also do onboarding, identifying and onboard a role person in your board. With corporate executives, is executive coaching. And emerging leaders, we do leadership rising stars. So for the next generation of leaders, we also incorporate that in our succession planning. So again, it's been a pleasure. I thank you so much. I thank the Plainfield Special Improvement District, and I wish you all in the business community in Plainfield much success. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha.
Oh, my pleasure. Just gonna stop the recording. Have a wonderful night.